Hello, everyone. My name is Brooke Williamson. The modern philosophy that I was given to present is pragmatism. It's been really fun learning more about it, and so I hope you enjoy what you are about to learn. I'd like to start off with this quote from a book called Toward a Pragmatist Sociology, John Dewey and the Legacy of C. Wright Mills. It says, the pragmatists, in effect, redefined philosophy, changing it from being a means to truth, a notion they repeatedly questioned, to being a guide to thought and action. So these ideas of truth and action are going to come up a lot as we discuss pragmatism. So let's find out about its origins. So pragmatism began during the American Industrial Revolution. This was a time full of experimentation, innovation, change. So the key personalities of pragmatism recognized that change is a part of life. And they also recognized that the previous philosophies were very stagnant and did not adapt with the changing world. So pragmatism implements the use of the scientific method to determine if what someone believes to be true is actually true. So let's talk about some of the key figures. The first person we have is Charles S. Peirce. He was one of the first key figures in developing pragmatism. After graduating from Harvard, he spent 30 years working as a U.S. Coast Guard physicist, and he utilized the scientific method to rationalize the world around him. We also have William James. He studied at Harvard to earn his MD before becoming a Harvard professor of physiology. He believed that truth was situational and relative, so truth was dependent upon the context in which it was experienced. One of the most prominent key figures is John Dewey. He majored in philosophy and psychology and earned his PhD from Johns Hopkins University. Dewey promoted the idea that knowledge was acquired through personal exploration and inquiry. His ideas influenced the public education system in America. And a lot of his ideas and a lot of the pragmatic thinking still impacts today's educational system. So the principles and ideas. Some principles of pragmatism. Reality is subjective. It's all based on personal experience. Absolutes do not exist. You cannot say that anything is absolutely true. Reality is based on human experience. All knowledge has to be observed or experienced. You can't just know that something is, you have to experience it for yourself. Pragmatism believes that scientific law may change. It says that knowledge must be acquired, so it can't be passed down. You have to experience, you have to build your knowledge yourself. It also says that something is true if it's tested or experienced firsthand. So like I said, you can't just tell me something's true. I have to experience it for myself. And what's true for me may not be true for you. Some ideas of pragmatism. Knowledge must be proven. Pragmatism does allow for people to have personal beliefs. You just can't say that those beliefs are true. Knowledge has to be proven. Truth can change. When put into a different context, pragmatism believes that the truth can change. Values are subject to change based on setting and culture. Morality is judged in social settings, so to determine the morality of something, it must be examined for how it influences a group, not just an individual. So some classical and modern expressions. I looked at the classical expressions within the context of education. So in the context of education, pragmatism rejected rote memorization, believed that experimentation leads to knowledge, and it also believed that the individual child determines education. So for example, a student notices that ice floats when placed in water, yet a rock sinks when placed in water. The student wants to see what other objects float or sink when placed in water. This leads the student to question why different objects have different outcomes when placed in water. The student finds a book on the topic to guide him as he engages in his own experimentation to determine if the previously conducted research is valid. So with pragmatism, you can't just read about it and have the knowledge. You have to experience it for yourself. You can use a book as a resource, but you have to be an active participant for it to say that you truly acquired the knowledge. Some modern expressions of pragmatism: student-centered education. The teacher becomes a facilitator. Student constructs knowledge of required topics. So ideally, when Dewey was giving these ideas, the student would be in charge of what he or she is learning. They would determine that. But today we do have standards that we have to follow. So But within that, we help guide the students in their construction of knowledge. For example, as students are learning about how weathering and erosion develop landforms, they're given the tools to test how erosion affects different types of rocks. The students may use a rock smoother to test how different types of rocks vary in length of time to erode and make different landforms. So instead of them just reading about erosion and weathering and its impact on rocks, they're actually practicing it, seeing it firsthand. So educational theories. I was given the educational theory of Reconstructionism to futurism. So education should look to the future. Students help create the future. It also has an emphasis on how students learn. So going back to the idea of our world is constantly changing, why look to the past if we're in a constantly changing world? Education should be future focused so the students are active participants in creating a better future. Implications for Christian education. So there's definitely some negative implications with this theory, with this philosophy. First of all, no absolute truth. That completely goes against what we know from the Bible. And it also says that morality and values are relative, which we know that God gives absolute standards to live by. So that conflicts with the pragmatic viewpoint. There are some positive implications, particularly with the way pragmatism has impacted education. So Christians should be active participants in their faith. You know, don't just read about it, but do it, practice it, live it out. I think this also really helps with discipleship relationships, particularly with the idea that the mentor, the teacher, walks beside the person that they are mentoring, the person they're discipling. The mentor is not an expert on everything. We, on this side of heaven, are not going to know everything. We're just more experienced, and so we can walk alongside that person and help them with what knowledge we do have. So I think those are some good things that have come from pragmatism in relation to Christian education. These are the sources that I used for this presentation. I hope that you have a better understanding of pragmatism, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.